What's going on, everyone? So, I was at a late-night diner last night around 11 p.m. with a couple of friends after we'd been out watching games at various bars around the city. We were sitting in this booth that had a TV mounted on the wall right next to us, and SportsCenter was playing with the volume pretty low because the place was relatively quiet. I wasn't really paying attention at first because we were just talking about random stuff and eating burgers and fries, but then I heard them start discussing the Warriors-Clippers game that had just finished. I looked up at the screen and saw highlights of Steph Curry fouling out late in the game and Jimmy Butler taking that final shot that completely airballed, and everyone at our table just kind of stopped talking and started watching. The analyst on SportsCenter was breaking down the game, but then the conversation shifted to what the Warriors need to do before the trade deadline. And Donovan Mitchell's name came up as a potential target to pair with Steph and completely transform their backcourt. I literally stopped mid-bite of my burger and told my friends to shut up for a second because this was actually interesting. I hadn't heard Mitchell connected to Golden State in a serious way before. We ended up sitting in that diner until almost 1 a.m. just watching SportsCenter go through this incredibly detailed segment about the Warriors' loss to the Clippers, the issues with their roster construction, why they desperately need to make moves, and how Donovan Mitchell could be the answer to so many of their problems, despite the massive haul it would take to get him from Cleveland. Let me walk you through everything that went down on that segment, because the way they connected the frustrating loss, the Snoop Dogg commentary experience, the refereeing controversies, Draymond's effort level, and then ultimately how Mitchell would fit into this Warriors system was honestly some of the most comprehensive NBA analysis I've seen all season. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we dive in, I need 1 second of your time. That like button right there? Hitting it now makes a massive difference in reaching more fans with this content. I know you're ready for the breakdown, but real quick, just smash that like button. It's the single most powerful way to support this channel and help the algorithm push this to thousands more people. Every like matters, so do me that favor right now. So they opened the segment with this funny take about Snoop Dogg saying, "That's enough of Snoop for 2026, but then immediately walking it back. The analyst was saying, Snoop is such a beloved figure, and you get it. They're in LA, and he doesn't mind Peacock trying to add him into the broadcast mix. But 2 quarters, a whole half of Snoop was too much. A quarter was fun, but by the 4th quarter, he was just doing nursery rhymes. So it was entertaining, but Peacock should limit it to once a year rather than making it a regular thing." The game breakdown started with the Warriors at the Intuit Dome on this single road trip down in Los Angeles, wearing the cream and brown uniforms. The Clippers didn't have James Harden, and the Warriors pounced on that fact early in the game with LA having like 5 turnovers in the first 6 minutes because they were having trouble initiating offense without their primary ball handler. But you know how it goes with the Warriors. Some player you haven't heard of who averages 5 or 6 points is going to light up the scoreboard. Last night it was Kobe Sanders, a 5th-year rookie who played 4 years at Cal Poly, and then his final year at Nevada. He's 6'8", was the 50th pick in the draft, and the Clippers had him on the ball where he dropped 20 points, shooting something like 9 of 12 from the field. The analyst was making this really interesting point about mid-range specialists and 2-footed jumpers. When you look at guys who are really good at the mid-range pull-up jump shot, there's one trait they all typically have beyond positional size: they're 2-footed jumper. When you're a strong 2-footed jumper, it really lends itself to that nail mid-range game. And Sanders was really good demonstrating that skill set. He continues the trend of second-round picks, becoming legitimate role players, and getting real opportunity with this new CBA, where teams have to give these guys more chances because you need low-priced players in your rotation. It's not surprising that Sanders feasted when given the opportunity, and the analyst had taken notice of him in previous Clippers games he'd watched. But the positional size thing is so frustrating for the Warriors. They started with 5 turnovers leading to defense-to-offense transition, and it was a really good start in the first 4 or 5 minutes. As soon as Steve Kerr went small, the Clippers started spraying the ball from 3. Kerr's probably thinking they need to double Kawhi and Zubac regardless, so let's have some quickness out there. which is just what he likes to do. But it's the backside rotations that become problematic. It's not necessarily even sending Podziemski to Zubac with Draymond helping. It's the recovery out to shooters that suffers. The Analyst made this great analogy about pickup basketball and how we've all experienced the difference between someone 5'9" closing out to you versus someone 6'3" or 6'4". Even if the bigger player doesn't get there in time, it's the same level of contact. There's a comfort level that's taken away when a bigger player is closing out on you. And you see that when teams like the Blazers go crazy from 3 against the Warriors. It's the lack of positional size that gives opponents comfort taking weak side shots. The Clippers were pretty much in control for the entire first half, and Steph looked sick. He almost looked like he did a few weeks ago when he had the flu. You could see it in his face. Something didn't seem right with Steph. And later in the game, they were checking his lat or his back. The Analyst has said it a bunch of times over the last month. Steph's hitting the floor too much, taking a lot of big collision, and he cringes every time he sees it happen. But Kobe Sanders kind of lit a fire under Steph because Sanders was going at him, and that's the contrasting coaching styles between Ty Lue and Steve Kerr. Lue matchup hunts all game long, and that's where the Warriors have to get better during these long scoring droughts, especially with Steph off the floor. You've got to matchup hunt for Jimmy Butler, though clearly he didn't want to go at Kawhi. They're just not doing a good enough job. Zubac is fresh off an ankle injury, and down the stretch they finally put him in some high pick and rolls. But that should have been the game plan from the start. And this is where the Donovan Mitchell discussion started to emerge, because the Analyst was making this point about how the Warriors need another elite ball handler and scorer who can carry the offense in those non-Steph minutes and also matchup hunt effectively. Mitchell is exactly that kind of player who can create his own shot, get downhill, and punish mismatches all game long. The title opportunity motivation for Mitchell was discussed extensively. The Warriors, even at a point of inflection with the age of their core, still have a championship foundation with Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. They offer an immediate opportunity to compete for an NBA title, something that can attract Mitchell, who's still searching for his first championship, despite being one of the best scorers in the league. The market and personal brand angle is huge for a player like Mitchell. Playing in a larger market like the Bay Area compared to Cleveland can significantly increase his marketing value and endorsement deals. Golden State is one of the most visible franchises in professional sports globally, and being the second star on that team would elevate Mitchell's profile tremendously. The franchise transition element is fascinating timing-wise. With uncertainty about the future of veteran players and the Splash Brothers era potentially ending, Mitchell could become the cornerstone of the franchise after that chapter closes. He'd guarantee his status as the primary star for the Warriors' future, which is appealing for a player in his prime who wants to be the guy somewhere. The on-court partnership was discussed as a perfect fit. Mitchell's ability to score and penetrate the defense would mesh incredibly well with the floor spacing Stephen Curry provides and the playmaking vision Draymond Green brings. That would create an offense that's incredibly difficult to stop, with two elite scoring guards who can both shoot and attack off the dribble. The potential dissatisfaction in Cleveland was brought up as the opening for a trade. Rumors suggest Mitchell may not be completely happy in Cleveland and had previously expressed desire to play in a larger market, which opens the door for a move to Golden State if the Warriors can put together the right package. But then the segment went back to breaking down the actual game, because context matters for why the Warriors are even considering these kinds of moves. Draymond sold out for a loose ball into the Warriors bench and cracked his back and ribs really badly, sliding full speed into the bench. Buddy Hield didn't do him any favors there, but your natural reaction when someone slides into your legs is to pick them up, so that's not really on Buddy. What the Analyst saw from Draymond last night was that he was on notice. Even that first three he took was very uncharacteristic, where the rookie was right on him, and Draymond took it in his face anyway. The Analyst thought what he saw from Draymond was urgency and trying to show, I still got it, I can still compete, I need to play harder and button up a bit. That was seen as a positive sign. But getting back to Draymond selling out for that loose ball, Draymond is as tough and durable as they come. But part of that is he's very good at taking calculated risks with his body. You don't play as long as he has at his size and physicality without making calculated decisions. That was a loose ball he typically wouldn't sell out completely for, and it was a sign along with those quick early threes of, "No, I get it. I've got to be better." Then Draymond tweaked his ankle on Kawhi, and it's kind of bad juju. The analyst was saying, we've all had these phases in life where your energy's off, you're not moving right mentally, and karma has a way of showing you that you need to change your energy and mindset. That's what seemed to be happening with Draymond. The back injury, the ankle tweak, it's like, hey Draymond, you've got to be a little more positive. Change your energy. It wasn't criticism of his game because he did show urgency and better effort level and intensity. The refereeing discussion took up significant time because there were huge point swings off the call. It started early when John Collins traveled and changed pivot foots on a pump fake, but got a soft and one on Trace Jackson-Davis. That's 3 points that should have been completely wiped away. Then Steph doesn't get the continuation call, and the Clippers go down and hit a 3. That's a 6-point swing right there. The tipping point was the goaltend on Gary Payton II, where Kerr blew a gasket, which was another 4-point swing because the Clippers went down and scored the other way. So you're talking about 12 points of swung points on these calls. There are bad calls every night, but it usually doesn't result in that many points being affected, which made this particularly frustrating when you look at the 1-point final margin. Kerr's ejection was his first of the year, and we haven't seen him that fired up in a while, but everyone understood his frustration. That's when Snoop really shined with his reaction. Though, as mentioned earlier, Snoop was ultimately too much for the entire broadcast. The Gui Santos discussion was interesting because the analyst was asking why they treat Gui like a side piece. The night doesn't work out, so you call him, and he shows up with energy and a smile. Right away, he has an impact on the glass and with positional size on closeouts. He makes mistakes like everyone else, but he hit that transition 3 and had the give and go with Draymond showing obvious value. Where does Guy get minutes in the rotation? DeAnthony Melton is getting a chunk because they're trying to bring him back after not playing basketball for a year following his ACL tear. Melton, being the Warriors' worst guard finisher at the rim, wasn't expected, and we still have to wait for him to return, mentally, physically, and spiritually, from that injury. But Gui can get minutes from Podziemski and from Gary Payton II. The extended GP2 minutes were described as feeling like fool's gold, even though Gary has been good individually. Gary is like a closing pitcher where he comes in for an inning or maybe 2, changes the look, and does what he does. Part of this is long-term durability. They're playing him a lot, and it's been successful short-term, but it feels like using him as a middle reliever, playing a bunch of innings when he's better suited for shorter high-leverage spots. As frustrating as the loss was, you can't be mad at the effort, fight, and spirit the team showed. Terry Stotts, taking over as acting head coach after Kerr's ejection, led to some better matchup hunting late, and Steph hit some shots to get them back in it. The biggest positive overall was getting the first glimpse of playoff Jimmy Butler this season. He had 5 steals, and the analyst found it fascinating that Kawhi and Jimmy have essentially played in opposing conferences their entire careers, so they haven't matched up much. But Jimmy has Kawhi's dribble pattern down perfectly. The timing, how many pokes did he get on Kawhi's dribble? Part of Kawhi's turnover issues without Harden is that he's so methodical and never in a hurry. When he catches, he wants to look and take his time. And the Warriors were swarming him all night. The defense was solid, but somehow they climbed back into it before Steph fouled out with his 6th, which obviously hurt their chances. They tried to save Steph with a couple no calls where the refs were like, "All right, Steph, we're not going to give you your 6th just yet." But when you're flying around on defense with 5 fouls and rotating everywhere, you reach, and it happens. But you'll live with that Jimmy Butler shot every time. He gets it in his spot, turns left shoulder, and misses the fadeaway. Jimmy looks like he's getting ready to shift into another gear. He paces himself through the year, knowing his physical style means he can't go full throttle for 82 games during the form. Finance. We're getting to the point of the season right around when they got him at the trade deadline last year, when he hadn't played for Miami at all. Is he starting to switch into another gear, understanding it's go time with this huge homestand coming up? And this is where everything came full circle back to Donovan Mitchell and the trade deadline. The Analyst was saying it's January 6th, and there are about 10 days until the Jonathan Kuminga trade possibilities open up on January 15th. That's another thing giving him peace watching these games, knowing that something's coming, that changes are on the horizon. The Mitchell fit was explored more deeply at this point. When you think about adding an elite scoring guard who can create his own shot, attack closeouts, finish through contact, and hit big shots in crunch time, Mitchell checks every box. Pairing him with Steph Curry would give the Warriors the most dynamic backcourt in the NBA and solve so many of their offensive stagnation issue. The size and athleticism Mitchell brings at 6'1", with a 6'10" wingspan, means he can guard multiple positions despite not being the biggest guard. His scoring ability from all three levels, threes, mid-range, and at the rim, would take so much pressure off Curry and allow them to stagger minutes so there's always an elite scorer on the floor. The trade package would obviously be massive. You're probably talking about Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, multiple first-round picks, and potentially other salary to make it work. Cleveland would want a king's ransom for their franchise player, but if you're the Warriors and you can pair Mitchell with Curry for the next 3 to 4 years of Steph's prime, you strongly consider it. The urgency factor is real because Curry is 37 years old and Draymond is 35. The championship window is closing rapidly, and you can't waste these final elite Curry years. Mitchell is 28 years old, which means he'd still be in his prime when Curry eventually declined, giving the Warriors a franchise cornerstone for the next era. The Analyst wrapped up by saying, ultimately, the Clippers played better, and the Warriors almost stole it, but didn't deserve the win. But looking ahead 10 days to when movement can happen, everyone expects the Warriors will add some sort of size, athleticism, and, hopefully, scoring to this roster in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Mitchell would be the ultimate swing-for-the-fences move that addresses all of those needs simultaneously. What really struck me about this entire SportsCenter segment was how they wove together game analysis, player evaluation, roster construction needs, and specific trade target discussion into one cohesive narrative. The Donovan Mitchell angle wasn't just speculation. It was a serious examination of motivations on both sides, fit with the current roster, and whether the Warriors should mortgage significant future assets for a player who could extend their championship window. So, what do you guys think? Should the Warriors go all in on a Donovan Mitchell trade, even if it means giving up Kuminga, multiple picks, and other young assets? And would Mitchell actually want to leave Cleveland for Golden State, given he'd still be playing second fiddle to Steph Curry, rather than being the undisputed #1 option? Let me know in the comments, because after watching SportsCenter break down this entire Warriors situation, from the frustrating loss to the roster needs to how Mitchell solves their problems, I'm genuinely curious whether Golden State has the guts to make a move this big before the deadline.